Who says Test match cricket is boring? Well, if you saw the first session of day 3 between Australia and India in the WTC Final, you would have certainly been at the edge of your seat. We'll break it all down with Mel Farrell on Quarrel with Farrell. Let's start the show. On the show today, Mel learns to pronounce Bangalore.
It was like being in Bangalore. I should say Bengaluru, shouldn't I? Apologies, Bengaluru, got to get it right.
Prizes are to be won, and we get a few quarrels. Mel, we have to talk about day 3, and there was a little bit of fight, character, ticker shown, whichever adjective you want to use by the Indian boys. But right now, Australia is still, like I said, with their heads in front. Let's get straight into it then by asking you about day 3 first and foremost before we talk about the remaining 2 days. What do you make of the day so far?
Yeah, it was a great day of cricket, and it was fantastic to see India fighting back. I'll take you back to the end of day 1, and you were despondent. You were like, it's all over. It's already all over. And I did say to you, 5 days, something might happen. There'll be a fight back at some stage, and it came today courtesy of Rahane and Thakur. And I just, when you think back to the fact that Rahane could have been out yesterday, India would have been 6 down, could have been over far more quickly. But to see him go on the counter, to see Thakur show some real fight as well, and then to see them come out and bowl and bowl a lot better. They clearly learned a lot of lessons from that first innings, and things have changed a little bit. Thakur was just saying that the pitch has definitely changed a bit, but that they learned, and you saw them bowl shorter much more promptly when Travis Head came out. But I think they just learned a bit more about the lengths, the conditions here, what they needed to do. And they did that quite well and posed a lot of challenges to Australia, especially when you get the openers out cheaply for Australia, and you know what's coming next. It's going to be Smith and Labuschagne digging in. But the fact that they were able to make the breakthrough for Smith, certainly, that was something encouraging for them. On the flip side too, Australia were a bit sloppy in the field. Cameron Green, I was trying to remember a time when he's dropped a catch in Test cricket. I couldn't remember one. I was asking some of my fellow Australian journalists, and we were really struggling because his hands are basically the size of a very large roundabout that you drive around. They're massive hands, and it doesn't happen very often, certainly, if at all, in Test cricket. So he made up for it. Maybe the drop was just because it was too easy. He had to go for the screamer, the Ben Stokes and Trent Bridge style reach behind him. That was spectacular, but they were a little bit sloppy. And I think a couple of the bowlers, they haven't had a great preparation going into this, you think, as far as time spent in the nets and out in the middle. Maybe a little bit of rustiness. Mitch Starc did admit to that afterwards, that there was perhaps a little bit of rustiness that they had to get through. And maybe that's why you're seeing him occasionally just maybe looking a little bit out of rhythm, and Cummins as well, bowling an odd number of no balls.
Yeah, odd number of no balls in that first over was almost brilliant for every Test match fan out there, cricket romantic, because it had all the ebbs and flows. We saw the fight back from India. We saw Australia lose the plot for a bit, but then look, at the end of the day, they're still firmly in control of this Test match. So let's move on to the first segment on Quarrel with Farrell, and it's called Howzzat! Right, so we're asking you viewers, and Mel of course, one integral question from an Indian perspective. Is there a miracle? And if so, how do India think of winning this test? Mel, what do they need to do? I mean, can we hope for them to chase anything under 320, even though they don't have someone like Rishabh Pant? If you're an Indian fan, how are you looking and conjuring up a win in your head?
I can tell you exactly what India fans are thinking, because I'm sat outside in the press box overflow area. So I'm right next to a lot of India fans, and mate, they think that they're in front. they were celebrating every single wicket that India took, every single shot. It was like being in Bangalore or something like that. It was amazing. So I should say Bengaluru, shouldn't I? Apologies, Bengaluru, got to get it right. Years of saying it the other way. But it was just, the Indian fans here certainly believe that. And you have to, don't you? You have to believe in the miracle. Certainly we're in the country where Bazball has shown that conventional wisdom in chasing can be disproven or overcome. So we'll just see. Surely a lot is going to have to come down to the first hour tomorrow, and just what India are going to be able to do. Because if Labuschagne hangs around there, Australia do bat quite deep. They've got a very pretty good tail. Even the likes of Lyon can thrash out a few more runs as well. So they do bat deep. First hour, I reckon we're going to know a lot more in that first hour. So hopes will possibly depend on that. And let's face it, India are going to need, if they're going to have any chance, I suspect they will need a lot more from their top order.
We normally don't do stats at the show as much as the other shows on cricket.com, but I'll throw a stat out for Mel because she loves her stats and numbers. There've just been 2 tests which has seen a team win after conceding a lead of 160 to 175. And those 2 tests, one happened recently in Chattogram when Kyle Mayers pulled off that sensational chase against Bangladesh. And the other one was 2003, 20 years ago in Wellington, where a certain Pakistan team upset the cart against New Zealand. So let's see if India have that miracle in them. But just to wrap up this chat, if you're Pat Cummins, Andrew McDonald, and the Australian team management, Mel, how much are you content with? 400? Surely there's nothing funny to happen from there, right? Because I don't think even the history suggests that India can get 400 on a day 5 Bunsen burner pitch.
You'd think that there would be, well, we're only at the end of day 3, right? There's still 2 more days. And although there's been talk of showers or thunderstorms, I've been looking every day, and I could only see like tomorrow, at most 20% chance of a shower. I don't know if that's changed this afternoon, but certainly when I checked it earlier.
Well, that'll be a fascinating subplot.
Sorry?
That'll be a fascinating subplot if the rain comes through and the overs are taken away, and then Australia need to force a result.
Yeah, also, by the by, the over rates in this test have been absolutely abysmal. Fans have been ripped off. And the irony that teams adopt points for slow over rates in the World Test Championship, and that can affect their chances of getting to the final. It stopped Australia from getting to the last final, and then they can just go as slow as they damn well like. What is that about? Tearing my hair out. The physio was on a lot this morning, I have to say, in that first session in particular. But that has got me. Now I forget where we were going, because you just got me off on my tangent about over rates. It gets me going.
I think they're still hungover from the IPL, because the over rates was a huge talking point in the IPL as well. But Jadeja might have kind of helped everyone ease out a bit with the way he was bowling the overs quite quickly. Let's talk about some of the positives of the day through the next segment, as we call it, Mel's Pick of the Day. Right, Mel, I know yesterday you went for pretty much different body parts of different players, which we loved. But today I want to put you on the spot. Who was it? Because India had some fighters. Australia pulled things back beautifully. If you have to really choose one guy who dominated day 3 in your eyes, who would that be and why?
Yeah, it's got to be Rahane, with a special mention to Thakur. Just as the fight, the punchback, India would have been done and dusted. Certainly, Rahane was lucky that he got a couple of no balls from Pat Cummins. That obviously really helped him. But I go back to that the previous day. If he'd gone then, he made the most of it. And that's the thing. You do get lives. You do get chances. What do you do with them? And he kind of looked a bit, it's typical Rahane, right? He kind of looked nervous when he started his innings. He goes for a few boundaries and then tries to get himself in. India desperately needed someone to put a line in the sand and not just stay out there, but actually take the fight back to Australia. And I thought that partnership between the pair, they did that really well. I thought it was a shame that Rahane didn't get his century, because I would have liked to have seen him get his century after all the hard work he put in. But it was probably the first time you really felt that the Australians were on the back foot a little bit, even though at that point India was still a long way back in the game. And then, you know, you saw at one point from there it just build and build. And the atmosphere here, I can't tell you enough. Kohli was winding up the crowd and really getting them going. But I think Rahane is the one who has given them something to work with. They're going to have to do an awful lot before they can be in any kind of position to challenge Australia for this title, of course. Like we said, just don't rule anything out. End of day 3 only.
I agree with you to a certain extent. And just a word on Rahane from my side, the fact that whenever he's got his back against the wall, you feel like the best comes out of Rahane. We saw it at Lord's 2014. We've known that he's normally been a thorn in the Australian flesh before as well. The MCG test comes to mind. But look, Mel's pick of the day, I think fairly straightforward on day 3, which is definitely moved at the rate of knots. Right, let's move on to the fun segment then. And this one is, I don't know if you guys want to call it fun, but it's informative. And this is what we're calling a day in the life of. Right, in the day in the life of, we pretty much ask our expert, in this case Mel, how she goes about just her occupation on a day-to-day, right? You obviously cover so many cricket tournaments. You're blessed to travel from city to city, Mel. But generally, what does Melinda Farrell do when she wakes up in the morning? Are there a few things that she does literally in terms of her work regime, so on and so forth? Can you spill some beans, please?
Well, the weird thing is, because I'm probably a bit different to most journalists, because I might do some just completely different things based on who I'm working for or what I'm doing. Because there are times when I'm writing, sometimes when I might be doing commentary, or if it's certain types of matches or games as well. So it's really varied, and there are times that I don't know what I'm going to be doing because we haven't decided what the day was. Gee, I remember, at the end of the 2019 Headingley test, I'd done all the video stuff, loads of all of this. I'd done video throughout the day. And I got to the end, finally, after all the presses, we'd done everything. I jumped in my Uber to go back to my hotel. It was about 8:15 at night. And I got a text from the editor saying, "We've just decided that it would be great if you could write a long read about the entire test, starting from the beginning." I was like, oh. So I went up to the bar of the hotel and ordered a bottle of wine, and I think I filed it at about 1:30 in the morning. So it really can vary. For this, I've actually written 4,000 words in the past 2 days. So that I'm kind of knackered, man. So it's just depends. But you sort of get into the rhythm of when you come in too. No matter what you're doing, one of the weird things that often you end up doing is you pause, or whoever you're talking to, or when you're writing, you'll often pause and just look up so you don't miss the ball, which I actually don't like. I don't like being busy to do that, because I like to be able to watch the whole time, because it's the stuff in between the balls where you can often pick up something that happens that you can glean something from sort of at the end of the day. So, luckily for me, there are lots of nice people around the press box. And to see that Indian colleagues too, who I might not have seen for a while, it's one of the great things about covering cricket is the community that exists around the whole world. So you don't see people sometimes for 2 or 3 years, and then you see them again, and it's really lovely, and you pick up where you left off. So that's always a big part of my day as well. I'm a bit of a social butterfly. I love seeing everyone.
No, I completely get that, and I fully resonate and sympathize with you. But yeah, there you had a day in the life of Mel Farrell in this case. And look, journalists do a lot of work, and it's only fair that they can put their feet up and perhaps enjoy a bottle of wine at the nearby bar like Mel did. Right, let's wrap up the proceedings by, of course, always catering to you viewers watching this one, and it is, who am I? Right, it's that funny old quiz that we've managed to chalk up in Quarrel with Farrell, where we've seen winners, but unfortunately on day 2, no one won, surprisingly. I thought we had a much more knowledgeable audience, but there was no responses, or there were, but they were not the right ones. let's see what we have today. And I'll speed on with this because look, we have 3 Indian Australian cricketers. I'll show you the rules for starters. All players in this quiz are India and Australia Test players. Winners only win if they get all 3 answers right, and all answers should be in the comments below. And obviously, whoever wins this particular competition, DM us on Twitter and we'll get in touch with you to win your merchandise. So let's get on with it. Right, so I'm going to shout out the clues for player 1. So who's the first one? We have this man who is, of course, blurred out. Also, you look at the clues, right, that the producer has given me. Took the greatest catch, which never was. I don't know what that's supposed to mean, but we'll run with it. He's played 10 tests, but not a single ODI. And he's won 2 Ranji trophies with Rajasthan. So there's your first Who Am I clue. And this is the second one we're talking about. And this man was a commentator. He also shares his first name with a basketball legend. And he played his last ODI in 1997. So let's see if you guys can identify that man over there. He's an Australian for sure. And we have another Australian to complete Who Am I for today. And the clues are this. I was born to parents of German ancestry. I also won a silver medal in the Commonwealth Games in 1998. And I've also been involved with the Chennai Super Kings, believe it or not. So, look, those are your clues. And Mel has no idea as usual. She has no clue.
I'm going basically for the full house on all of these. I reckon that we're going to get to the end of this test and I won't be able to get a single one.
It's all right. Mel, thank you so much for your time. Day 3 certainly moved fast, and I'm sure there's more drama left in day 4. And who knows, like you said in day 1, it could go all the way down to day 5, that final hour, that final session. It won't be love at all.
Thank you. That was great.
Just likewise. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Right, that's all we have time for in Quarrel with Farrell in this one. Much more, of course, on cricket.com. Stay tuned. It's a goodbye from me, Avni. Check in and subscribe right now.